The latest news about George Strait has left millions of fans across the world in tears. Known as the King of Country, George's voice has carried generations through love, loss, and life itself. But now, as heartbreaking new details emerge about his health, his emotional reflections on family, and his uncertain future, fans are realizing they may be witnessing the end of an era. After decades of shaping the sound of country music with timeless hits like Amarillo by Morning and The Chair, George's recent confessions have struck a painful chord with those who've followed him from the beginning. Behind the cowboy hat, the legend, and the quiet smile lies a man who has endured unimaginable heartbreak and loss. Today, his story is both beautiful and devastating, a portrait of an artist who gave everything to his music and is now facing the emotional cost of his own legacy. George Strait wasn't born into fame, he built it from the ground up. Raised on a Texas ranch in the small town of Poteet, George's early life was shaped by hard work, family values, and the simple beauty of the open range. He joined his first band while serving in the U.S. Army, performing in small clubs overseas before chasing his dream back home. By 1981, his debut single Unwound became an instant hit, launching one of the most remarkable careers in music history. But what made George stand out wasn't flash or fame, it was authenticity. He didn't chase trends, didn't change his sound for radio. Instead, he stayed true to his roots, giving fans songs that spoke straight from the heart. Behind every melody was a story, and behind every performance was a man who understood that country music isn't just entertainment, it's life. Unlike many stars, George Strait never seemed to crave the spotlight. He was known for his quiet demeanor, rarely granting interviews or revealing much about his private life. That mystery only made fans love him more. While other artists embraced fame with open arms, George preferred the simple life, ranching, roping cattle, and spending time with his family. But as his fame skyrocketed through the 1980s and 1990s, the pressure of constant touring and media attention began to take its toll. "I never wanted to be a celebrity," he once admitted. "I just wanted to sing." Despite the chaos of stardom, George remained humble and grounded, a rarity in an industry that often consumes its own. But his stoic personality also meant that few truly knew the struggles he was facing behind the curtain. In 1986, tragedy struck George Strait's family in a way that would forever change his life. His 13-year-old daughter, Jennifer, was killed in a car accident, a devastating blow that shattered his world. The loss was unbearable, and George, who had always been a man of few words, withdrew even further from the public eye. He stopped doing interviews for years, channeling his pain into his music instead. Songs like Baby Blue and You'll Be There became emotional tributes to his daughter, though he rarely spoke about her publicly. Those who knew him said he carried the grief quietly, letting his music speak the words he couldn't say aloud. Fans felt his pain deeply, every lyric, every note seemed to echo with the sorrow of a father who'd lost his child. That tragedy shaped not just his career but his soul. After Jennifer's passing, many wondered if George Strait would ever return to the stage with the same fire. But rather than retreat, he transformed his grief into strength. His 1987 album Oceanfront Property became his first to debut at #1 on the Billboard Country chart, a testament to his resilience and connection to his fans. "Music helped me heal," he said years later. "It was the only way I knew how to go on." Yet, beneath the success, George carried a sadness that never truly faded. Even as he filled arenas and broke records, he remained a man haunted by loss. He channeled that pain into performances that felt raw and real, reminding fans that behind the King of Country title was a man who had walked through the deepest valleys of the human heart. By the time the 2000s arrived, George Strait was more than a country icon, he was a living legend. With over 60 #1 singles, more than any artist in history, his career became the gold standard for success. He sold out stadiums around the world, and every performance was a masterclass in sincerity. Yet despite his achievements, George never boasted. "I'm just a singer," he often said, brushing off accolades that others would have shouted from rooftops. Fans adored his humility, but those close to him noticed that the years of constant performing were beginning to wear him down. The endless touring schedules, late nights, and emotional toll of staying on top had begun to take a physical toll. Behind the cowboy hat, George was quietly battling exhaustion and the desire to step away for good. In 2012, George Strait shocked the world when he announced the Cowboy Rides Away tour, his farewell to full-time touring. For fans, it felt like the end of an era. Concert after concert, he filled stadiums with tears, laughter, and memories, performing with the grace and emotion of a man saying goodbye to his life's calling. "I just can't keep up the pace anymore," he told fans from the stage. When the tour ended in 2014, his final show in Arlington, Texas drew over 100,000 people, one of the largest concerts in country music history. As George sang the Cowboy Rides Away for the last time, even the toughest cowboys in the audience wiped away tears. It wasn't just a concert, it was a farewell to a man who had given everything to his fans. Though George's farewell tour was meant to bring peace, stepping away wasn't easy. For a man who had spent over 3 decades performing, the sudden quiet of retirement was deafening. Friends say he struggled to adjust to a slower life, missing the energy of the crowd and the sense of purpose that came with every show. There were also whispers of health concerns, as George began canceling public appearances and interviews. While he kept details private, his noticeably thinner frame and slower movements fueled speculation. Still, he refused to let weakness define him. Instead, he focused on what truly mattered: his wife Norma, his son Bubba, and the Texas ranch that had always been his refuge. But fans couldn't help but worry that something deeper was unfolding behind the scenes. By 2024, reports began to surface suggesting that George Strait had faced a series of health challenges. Though no official diagnosis was confirmed, insiders close to his family hinted that he had been quietly undergoing treatment for undisclosed issues. Fans, always respectful of his privacy, flooded social media with love and support, posting old concert clips and heartfelt messages. "He gave us his whole life through music," one fan wrote. "Now it's our turn to give him strength." George himself finally addressed the rumors in a rare message, saying simply, "I'm doing fine, taking it day by day." It was classic George, humble, understated, and deeply human. Yet his words carried the weight of a man who had learned the fragility of time. If there's one thing that's kept George Strait grounded through every storm, it's his family. His marriage to Norma, his high school sweetheart, remains one of the strongest in show business. Together, they've endured tragedy, fame, and everything in between. Their son, Bubba Strait, followed in his father's footsteps as both a songwriter and a rodeo cowboy, a legacy that fills George with pride. In recent years, George has spoken more about cherishing his time at home, watching sunsets on the ranch, and enjoying the peace he'd once taken for granted. "Family is what matters most," he said in a recent interview. "Music gave me everything, but love gave me life." For fans, those words were a reminder that even legends are human, that behind every song is a man who still finds his strength in the people he loves. Even as George Strait slows down, his fans haven't gone anywhere. His music continues to dominate streaming platforms, and younger generations are discovering the timelessness of his voice. Tributes pour in from artists across genres, from country newcomers to rock veterans, all crediting him as a guiding influence. When fans gather at his shows, there's an almost spiritual atmosphere, a collective gratitude for the man who gave them the soundtrack to their lives. Some even visit his ranch gates in Texas just to leave flowers or letters of thanks. "He's the heart of country music," one lifelong fan said. "Without George, it wouldn't be the same." The emotional outpouring has been overwhelming, proof that George Strait's impact reaches far beyond the charts. In a recent sit-down interview, George Strait opened up like never before. Reflecting on his long journey, he spoke softly about the passage of time and the meaning of legacy. "You never really realize how fast it all goes," he said. "You just hope you made people feel something along the way." He talked about Jennifer, about Norma's strength, and about the fans who kept him going when the pain felt too heavy to bear. "Every time I sang, I felt her with me," he said of his late daughter. His voice cracked as he added, "I think that's what kept me alive, the music and the love." For millions watching, it was one of the most emotional moments of his career, a glimpse into the heart of a man who has given everything and asked for nothing in return. Today, George Strait's name is carved permanently into the history of country music. With over 100 million albums sold, countless awards, and an influence that spans generations, his impact is immeasurable. But beyond the records and accolades lies something far greater, the emotional bond he forged with his fans. Through triumph and tragedy, he remained authentic, humble, and true to the music that defined his soul. Though recent headlines have brought tears to fans' eyes, they've also reminded the world why George Strait is more than an artist, he's an American treasure. As the cowboy rides into his next chapter, the songs he left behind continue to echo through time. Because for every fan who's ever been moved by his music, George Strait isn't gone. He's eternal, a voice that will never fade, and a heart that will forever sing of home, love, and country. The latest updates about George Strait may bring sadness, but they also remind us of a deeper truth, that legends like him never truly leave us. His songs remain the soundtrack to our lives, his words the comfort of our hardest days. And though the king of country may be stepping away from the stage, his spirit continues to ride high across every sunset in Texas. Because George Strait didn't just sing country music, he was country music.